Start. Hello, what's up, everybody? Mel here once again with Magic the Gathering. Today, we're going to do a discussion on deck building and some tools that you can use to get started that are on the website. I'm joined, of course, here with my good friend Shiro. Shiro, say hello.
Hello.
All right. So, Shiro and I have been playing the game for a fairly long time each. And as we've done a couple of in depth discussions um, on actual regular deck building, I wanted to actually talk a little bit about Commander. So, in order to do that, I have on the screen here, we have pulled up Shiro's uh, account on Tapped Out. Well, it's a link to his decks that he has built on Tapped Out. So, Shiro, if you'll take me through this, we're going to start out with which deck would you like to start out with?
You know what? Let's just do it by the books we have it. So we have Jory N is our starting.
All right, and we'll just there we go. There's the deck list is up on screen. So I'm looking at this list here, starting with your commander Jory N. Talk about it. Talk me through this. How did you build this, and what went into building this?
I remember when I first saw him come out, I was like, I love Spellslinger decks. This is perfect. Not only do I get card draw for every second spell I cast each turn, meaning I'm limited to the amount I want to cast, but I also get to keep digging for something. And that literally, he's a ruin diver. And if you look at some of the vanilla text, it mentions relic hunting all over, trying to find a way to stop the Eldrazi. And I'm like, this sounds fun. I want to see where this can go. What can I shove into this? And literally, I just went, what are some of the most fun spells I can mess this up with? And just go kind of crazy. And I want to draw more cards. And I want to draw more cards. Or I want to make it where suddenly I get bonuses from having amount of cards in my hand, refreshes, anything like that. So I put a lot of sorceries in it and a subpar amount of creatures, but enough that it'll help me either do something or fend off something. If you
Okay.
go and look, we'll go down to the artifact section to be precise to start off, because I'm drawing a lot of cards. But if you've played Magic the Gathering, max amount you can have in your hand is 7. Gonna need a way to stop that. Spellbook, 0 drop enchantment, meaning it's very easy to fetch with things like Trinket Mage, which I actually don't have in the deck, but again, trying to just dig straight down until essentially milling myself. And I believe I also have the land that way, but don't quote me. I do. I have Reliquary Tower. Good. I'm not a moron.
This is good.
So the win condition of the deck essentially is either I can draw myself out or have a lot of other things I can do to hit you with. But the main win condition I put in is probably one of my most favorite and least favorite ones. It's that love hate relationship. And that is definitely tunnel vision with Seal the Fate the Seal. Fate seals the mechanic. I can never spin into myth.
Been into myth is
Is do I? Are you kidding me? Did I not? Okay, so I haven't updated this deck list. My apologies.
it's fine.
So the point of it is, you play spin into myth on somebody's creature. We'll just go with Jory N as the example. But let's say
Okay.
they have them regularly in the deck and not as the commander. I target Jory N. I can Fate Seal 3, meaning I can put it either as the third from the top or at the bottom. Sounds pretty okay. I mean, you're burying a card, and then you play Tunnel Vision, where you get to name a card, and they will dig through their deck until they hit that card, and anything they've dug through goes straight into the graveyard. So as long as they don't have, say, some kind of Eldrazi refresh or one of the new gods from Ravnica, anything like that, where it says basically shuffle your library in when this hits your graveyard, should be okay. There's really not too much I didn't add, truth be told. It was just a fun idea I wanted to go with.
Okay.
But I
Now,
built it with the premise of how much can I draw?
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, and it actually, I mean, there's really an easy way to deal with that. You could literally just put in, uh, like if you just want to really kind of seal the deal. I'm thinking, of course, from my perspective, as turning this into Grixis, and then just adding in a ley line of the void.
I mean,
And I mean, that's a
that's
win
not a
condition.
bad idea.
Because everything just gets straight out exiled, and then there is absolutely no chance of anything hitting that graveyard and putting stuff back into the library.
I mean, totally true. Not against that. So, for those of you, as a real quick thing, that aren't really sure what Commander is, like you've hung around with Melk, you've learned a little bit about Magic, or you've been just playing Magic Arena, where they haven't really had Commander too much yet. Commander is 100 card singleton. You can only have one copy of a card in your deck. Not two, not three, not four, not 27 if it's one of the freaking rats that can do it. One.
And
Now,
your commander has to be a legendary creature.
correct. Your commander does have to be a legendary creature. Why is that? Because whatever colors are on that card, be it in the mana cost, in an activated ability they have, anything of that sort, or some kind of triggered ability, those are the only colors you are allowed to play with. Colorless is not included because colorless is a type, so you can put colorless cards in there. So Jorian, colorless technically there. Red, blue, I can only play red, blue. If a card has black in it, like say Nicobolus, can't put it in there. He's got black. But if there was an activated ability, yes, I could.
Right.
Lands, for the purpose of basic lands, ignore the singleton rule. Non basic lands do not.
So basically, how many lands are you looking to put in this deck? What's the breakdown? So the commander is counted towards the 100 card maximum.
That's correct.
So then you have, what is the ideal like breakdown? Like, is it around, like, yeah, I see you have 37 lands here. Is it, would you say between
Yeah,
like 37,
I went
30?
a little overboard, but that's because on average, we'll say you want 35 for dual colors, around 33 to 35 for single color. And if you're going triple, you want to ramp it up a little bit, probably closer to 37 because you're going to want more kind of fetch lands or shock lands or search lands, anything like that to try and help filter that number down. So the easy way to think about that is if you look, for example, I have Terramorphic Expanse in there because I can search for a basic land, I can bring it into play tapped. So that doesn't count towards my actual land count for me. It counts from my regular card base. Because instead of it counting towards a land, since I can't tap it for mana and I can't consistently use it, it shouldn't count towards something that should be always generating me mana.
Okay. And let's take a look at some of your other decks here.
Let's just go right into Skarta. She's the next one over, and arguably one of my favorites.
Okay.
So Sigarda, Host of Herons, is from the Avacyn block, original Avacyn block, not the Turn
Yep.
to Avacyn,
Avacyn
whatever it was
restored.
called.
Avacyn restored set. Yep.
And she is a bit of a beefy creature. Not only is she an angel and she's a green white 5/5 flying, she has hexproof. So, first of all, my opponent can't target her. So, only AoE can affect her. That's fine. But then, spells and abilities my opponents control can't cause me to sacrifice permanents, be it lands, be it creatures, enchantments, artifacts, anything of that type, can't do it. So, the only real way you can get rid of Sigarda is either you have a mass bounce, a mass destroy, or mass damage slash exile. Well, that's not a whole lot of cards when you think about it. So the thought was, well, I like Voltron, and there's a different variant of it called Enchantress, where you just stack enchants on anything, kind of like all your eggs in one basket to smash people in the face. And I went, I want to do it with artifacts instead. Yes, this is a really good enchantment color, but artifacts seem a lot more fun. And if I somehow still lose Sigarda, I can very much versatile tap a bunch of mana and still make something else just as good. So the very first thing is I don't want to lose her to any destroy effects. Let's throw a dark steel plate in to make her indestructible. Okay, but there's still like red color damage that comes out. Like pyroclasm, it's only 2 damage, but there's ways to double cast or triple cast. So let's throw in a sword because I have an entire place of swords. Oh, look, fire and ice. There's red blue. Okay, well, I've got that sword in there. I might as well protect against the rest of the colors just in case. Threw the rest of them in. So that's there, and I love it. Now, one of the most arguably broken cards ever printed in Magic is Uzawama's Jit. It's a nice, simple 2 drop artifact. So whenever you, whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage, it gains 2 charge counters on that artifact, meaning those charge counters can be moved wherever I want if I move that enchantment around. So either I can give ideally Sigarda, +2/+2 if I need to buff through, or I can give any creature -1/-1 till end of turn, or just flat out gain 2 life. And all I do that is remove a counter. So if, let's say, Melk was going to kill me with a lightning bolt, I'm at 3 life. He hits me for 3 with that. In response to him casting, I can remove 1 or 2 of the counters and gain 2 or 4 life. It's a very versatile card, and it was extremely broken in the set it was set in. So, yeah, let's have some fun and throw that in there. But I'm going to need something to protect all my artifacts. Artifacts have a lot of ways to be destroyed. I mean, that's Red's like bread and butter of, I hate that thing made of metal and I want to melt it. So I went and bought a dark steel forge. Artifacts can't be destroyed. All right, well, if Sigarda can't be destroyed and the artifacts attached to her can't be destroyed, I'm in pretty good shape. Sigarda doesn't have haste. Yeah, let's find a couple of things to give her haste. Oh, Soul Ring's an artifact. I might as well take some man ramp. There we go. So basically, the idea was just how much can I put on her at once? And she has been like a 20 something, 20 something, trample, haste, every other keyword you can basically think of. And for those unaware, in Commander, if I do 21 points of commander damage, not regular health damage, specified as commander damage from that health pool, that person loses.
Oh wow.
So, correct. And the reason that rule came about, if I remember correctly, is back when this first idea first came around for this format, back around the dinner table, it was Legends block, where we had the legendary dragons like Nicobolus. And what were they? 7/7s. 3 hits, you're dead. Seemed pretty fair for a three strikes you're out rule.
That's fair.
So I'm very uh, permanent heavy in this deck. It takes up a lot of board space, but I wanted a couple of ways to search for things, like specifically in good artifact or enchantment that I'm definitely going to need. So I threw an enlightened tutor in there. As Melk has probably told people multiple times, the tutors are some of the best one drops ever printed.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Tutors. Well, I
Yep.
mean, you've got a couple of really good cards in here. Land tax is another one I like.
Yep, over in the enchantments, that's for sure. I've recently taken that out for playtesting. One of the ones from Ravnica Block. I'll get back to you on what it is, just
Okay.
to see if, because I found myself having almost too much land at some points, and I'm like, I don't really need this right now. Although it is kind of handy to just filter the deck. And one of my favorite cards, probably printed for white, is Faith's Reward, the only other instant in this deck, because return to the battlefield all permanent cards put to your graveyard that were put there this turn from the battlefield. Oh man, they killed everything before I got Darksteel Forge out, and it's back.
That works.
Gotta love a reset. I put Garuk in there just for a little bit of mana ramp, and then if I need to get trample, I can get trample. And Gideon's in there just to be a distraction because I mean, what else is Gideon good for these days? Looking at you, Nicobolus. Yeah, he distracted you from killing her.
True.
Oh, sorry guys. Spoilers for War of the Spark.
Well, all right. Well, we don't really have to worry about that too much.
Right. So my next premise of the deck was just throw in some creatures that help me, like for example, Pure Steel Paladin, where if I have 3 or more artifacts under my control, my equip costs become 0. Okay, well, I don't need to pay mana to equip anything anymore. That's really nice. I have Stoneforge Mystic, so I can search for things once if I can bounce her. That's great, but I don't have blue. Other people have done it for me because they wanted to play friends. And she just lets me throw stuff basically for 3 mana onto the battlefield. Nice for some of my bigger stuff that I'm going to play, like Tamatsu's Dragonfang.
Right.
Couple of ways that I kind of want to protect myself early to mid game. So, like Windborn Muse, which is people can't attack me unless they pay 2 per creature attacking me. It's a really nice effect to have, and it's really deterring for people. There's a few other things like artifacts I have can't be the targets of spells or abilities my opponents control, so they have hexproof. I basically just said, this creature has this, I want this. Let's throw it in and see what happens. Worst case scenario, I make it big. Like Birds of Paradise. Do I really need a 0/1 bird? No, but I can equip a bunch of stuff to a 0/1 bird and hit for a lot in the face. Flying, pretty nice. A bunch of my sorceries, I came up with the idea of looking at the deck and saying, I am extremely permanent heavy. I have a massive field presence, although it's not creatures, it's all there. I kind of want to keep that. So if I can't be destroyed and your board can be destroyed, Milk, hmm, okay.
Yeah.
Go to go to Gatherer, otherwise known as MTG Gatherer, where they have their entire database of every card in the game, and literally typed in the word destroy. I want it white. I want it green if possible, only that, and valid for commander format. Go. And grabbed pretty much everything I could at the time, which was before Return to Ravnica.
Yeah, you seem to definitely have everything in here.
Pretty close.
Man, I
As for
remember
the
Day, Day of Judgment.
Yeah, as for the lands, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a lot of I have a lot of basics in there. I have command tower. Real quick to go on a tangent for command tower. It's always going to be a decently valued card. Might not be heavily valued, but in Commander, it's one of the best lands you can have because it will literally tap for any color at any time that your commander can make. Any color your commander can make. It's guaranteed to cater to what you're building.
Yeah, well, I mean, Command Tower is a staple. It is one of the things that you actually kind of must have if you're going to be building
And
a
it's
commander
printed
deck.
in every commander deck that they release.
Correct. So,
So is Soul Ring.
yeah, well, I have opinions about that, but that's fair.
Yes. I agree they probably shouldn't, but I mean I have like 30 of the things now because of it,
Oh
so I can't
yeah.
really complain. One of the most fun things I have in the deck for land is the what's called Urzatron. Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Tower. Last I checked, you could pick these things up for what, under $1 a piece? But
They're
that
three
was a couple years back.
dollars. It's still $3 a piece now, but it's still not bad.
Oh, awesome. I've made
And
money.
and to be fair, I'm surprised they haven't gone up. Only because I say that now. I mean, just looking at that simply because of that. The mine, the tower, and the power plants. I mean, I'm looking at ones here that are most likely going to be what do we call it? The Legends or the Chronicles edition. But even at that, with them being so rampant in the modern format of Tron, you're still looking at. I mean, there's a very good possibility that we're going to be seeing those lands skyrocket in price because of, ironically, a card that just came out in War of the Spark, and then when the London Mulligan rule officially sets in, Tron will actually become the dominant deck in Modern, which means that most of those cards will skyrocket in price. So right now, anything that's
Mhm.
$3, I expect to see. Now, when I say skyrocket, I mean we're not talking like, oh, Mox level skyrocket or anything like that. I'm saying the cards could, approach the mid to high teens per copy. So I mean that would be nice to see. I think those lands have been undervalued for way too long, especially seeing as how they do provide a nice level of ramp, especially if you're running either artifacts or, any sort of colorless. I mean, you are able to get a lot of stuff out with those cards pretty quickly.
For sure. 3 lands producing a total of 7 mana if you have them all out is a game changer.
Oh yeah.
Because if let's say if you do nothing in Commander on turn 1, 2, and 3, which is perfectly fine, a lot of decks sometimes take time to get online. It is very much a format that is in flux for how speed goes, depending on who's sitting at the table and what they're running. So, like dropping Urzatron on turns 1, 2, 3, perfectly fine, perfectly normal, albeit in a 100 card singleton deck. Also, perfectly limited to happen unless you're rigging yourself. But if you
Right.
are, hey, hope you get caught eventually, but that's because I'm a pessimist. And last but not least, if you look very quickly at the enchantments of this deck, there's nothing too special. A lot of it is just I want more mana, I want more mana, I want more mana, because if I'm going to be moving stuff around, I'm going to need it. And the one to note in there is what's privileged position. It is probably one of the best things to come out of Lorwyn Block because everything other than it has hexproof or shroud as hexproof. And it costs split mana for this color scheme, which is very nice. So it doesn't matter what I have on the field.
Right. Also, that's the original Ravnica block.
Yes, I was wrong.
No, you're good. I just wanted to just for
No,
so
that's fine. I'm
I
all
know
for being
somebody's gonna
corrected.
say it in the comments. So
Oh, for sure.
um,
It's been a while.
yeah, no, that's fair. Moving to the next deck here, we're gonna go to Horde of Elements.
All right. So this is it's not a pride and joy of mine. It's more when I got to Lorwyn Block with friends that just they were still playing. I was kind of out of it. They're like, "Hey, look at this set. It's really kind of cool." I'm like, So it's nothing but tribal themes? Yeah, it's nothing but tribal themes. And they have elementals. All right. Oh, I can roll with this. Let's do this. And then when I found what commander was, I had to do it. I had to make 5 colored elementals and make it as cheesy and hilarious as I could. So I every single creature in this in some way shape or form is an elemental or can become an elemental. And all of them always do some kind of something. Furtlet will get me land. Forgotten Ancient makes it where I can get counters and spread counters, which is good for buffing up my creatures. You have Horde of Notions himself, which is I can pay what we call Wooburg, one of every color, to play a card from my graveyard without paying its mana cost. So that's all fine and dandy, but I mean, how am I going to kill somebody?
Yeah.
Well, the premise of how I'm going to kill somebody, if you drop over to the enchantment page, you're not seeing anything really that bad. Yeah, no, none of this is wait, what's this at the bottom? Warstorm Surge. Oh yeah, it's Warstorm Surge. For those unaware, anytime a creature enters the battlefield, it does damage to target creature or player equal to its power. So creature with a lot of buffs comes in, like say +1/+1 from Incandescent Soulstoke, or Omnath with a ton of green mana in the pool. It's gonna hurt. And the fact that, oh, you've killed my elemental, that's so sad. I tap 5, I bring it back, it hits you again. Oh, oh, look, it happened again. Oh, I'm so sorry, Milk. It happened again. I don't mean to do this to you, but I do.
You said I wasn't fun.
Yeah, but I tend to try and build a deck with an idea behind it. Like I want it all tribal, and this is how I'd like to win.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know.
Versus I play Smokestack. Yeah, I'm
That's
gonna
fair.
keep using that card because I can use that card because that's literally you. So I threw in a few fun things, a lot of X costs, simply because I was like, well, I don't make a ton of mana, but I can have a lot of utility with it. So there's things in there like Killing Wave, Genesis Wave, Sphinx's Revelation, just ways that I can have essentially what I want to have. Being I'm going to search for something like this, or I'm going to make it where everyone sacks equal to this mana cost, or I want to draw this cards and gain this many life.
Right.
So it's just this deck is fun for me, no matter how much I play it, because there's a lot of nostalgia value attached.
Sure, I can see that.
Now, if you're looking at the land specifically, you're going to notice that there's a lot of shock lands. It's a pricey land set to run 5 colors on average. It really is. You need the extra go to. It's not a cheap budget deck list. Because if you're trying to just be like, oh, I'll throw in some Terramorphics, I'll throw in an Evolving Wilds, a bunch of searches, the deck's going to be way more slow than it should be. And that's going to hurt you a lot in the long run.
I mean, to be
While
fair,
mine, go ahead,
I mean, just to be fair, I mean, on the lands, anytime you're running a commander deck that's going to be 5 color, you're going to have an expensive land package. Whether you're playing like Horde of Notions, or even if you were playing Slivers, and because you hated everybody in your play group, um, Slivers actually really does kind of synergize well in this format too. Um, but like even if you're running, let's say, a Sliver Queen, just to go with the meta, uh, you're still going to be running a really expensive land pack. Whether you're running um, the Shocklands or whether you're running dual lands, you're still looking at an extraordinarily pricey land package.
for
So
sure. Mine is nowhere near the level it could be at, and I don't want it to be that way. I have had a fair amount of success with what I have, and it hasn't broken my wallet.
one thing
Biggest
I
point there,
yeah, it hasn't broken the wallet. I mean, one thing that could easily be added in here, I think that would be good, would potentially, I don't see it in here, is City of Brass, not too expensive. And the other one would be Mana Confluence, were the only two things I would add in, because Mana Confluence, of course, is squarely just a better City of Brass, just in case somebody wants to be cheeky and tap your land, it prevents you from taking that 1 damage.
it's very nice that way, and I agree. I haven't really gone to update this one as of late
No,
at all.
I'm just,
Actually, this
yeah,
is pretty much original.
yeah, no, I'm just saying, those two cards I could see being good additions to the land cycle. without
Yeah,
again without
for sure.
adding too much expense.
And this deck also, real quick, just has a way to kind of let everybody be your. You buy a lot of favors, as it were, or political power in Commander with certain cards. Mana Flare. It is a 3-drop red enchantment. It is one of those cards because everybody loves tapping mana. Everybody loves tapping mana when they get more mana from that tap.
That's true.
And you don't really want to kill the guy that's giving you more mana unless he's producing more than you.
I mean, Commander is one of those very rare formats where you can actually negotiate who takes damage just by having certain cards, like you say, out. So yeah, it does give you that little bit of negotiation there, where you're like, "Are you sure you really want to be attacking me? I am helping you out with a mana." And your buddy on your left might be, you know what? Yeah, he's right. I'm going to attack that other guy over there. I'm going to tank Frank because Frank's not doing anything for me.
Correct. There's been a lot of situations where I'm like, hey man, like listen, all I have is this one creature, 3 mana, and that thing. I can't really do that much right now. I probably can later because this is Commander, and I'm not gonna lie, I have plans for it. But I mean, I'm gonna stay as I am for now. If you want to hit me, but there's a bigger threat over there. I mean, there's a Giora to get to.
It's true.
We'll get to her later. Yeah, I'm dropping the seed. We'll get to her later. Shall we move on to deck number 3?
Yes, we're going to
4?
move on to the
4.
Almanath Locus of Mana Elves.
So for those that are just listening to this, that is not Omnath's name. That is the name I made for the deck because he is Omnath, Locus of Mana. Well, why did I put Mana Elves? Question: have you ever played against elves? If the answer is yes, you understand where I'm coming from. If the answer is no, elves are notorious for helping other elves and then having an elf that says, I tap equal to the number of elves and give you that much green. Well, how does that help Omnath? Omnath makes it where green mana doesn't empty from your pool at the end of steps or phases. Steps and phases. That's how he's phrased. Steps and phases. Took me a second there, Milk. Sorry. So I'm not losing any green mana I tap as long as Omnath is on the field. But on top of that, Omnath gets +1/+1 for each green mana in my field. So what looks like counters on Omnath is really how much mana I have available. So my deck premise here was one, Elven Tribal, but not led by your typical like Elven commander. I said, no, I want Omnath. I want to see how big I can get him and how stupid this can be. I had to buy about 24 packs of dice, be it the D20, D10 down or D20 down to D4, and 2 full packs of 24 D6s,
Wow.
and I still didn't have enough.
Wow.
Well, how do you keep track of all that, Shiro? The answer is I go through every single trigger, and people hate me because my turn takes 20 minutes. Why does my turn take 20 minutes, you might ask? Well, if you look at the deck list, that deck list is extremely heavy on permanents. You got 44 creatures, 11 enchantments, 33 land, 1 planeswalker, 7 artifacts. All of those are enchantments, or all of those are permanents. Okay, well, you have 3 sorceries there. Those aren't permanents, those are spells. You're right, those are spells. Let's go and take a look at those spells. Elvish Promenade. Put a 1/1 green elf warrior token on the battlefield for each elf you control. A lot of elves have enter into combat abilities. Whenever something or enter the battlefield abilities. I am terrible today. So
You're
an
fine.
elf has entered the battlefield. That triggers. Oh, that one and that one and that one triggers. Okay. But I'm getting 1 per elf. If I have 5 elves, 1 elf triggers 5 times, but I'm getting 5 elves. That's 25 triggers. Okay. We'll say 5 and 25 elves. That's not that bad. Genesis Wave. I reveal X cards from my library, and then I may play any number with converted mana cost X or less among them. That's pretty nice. Basically, let's say again, we'll go with 5. Anything 5 or less, which is a lot of this deck. If you go over to the right and look at that mana curve, there are just less than 15 cards of 100 that are that way, not counting lands because lands are 0. Okay, now we move on to the big one, Primal Surge. When this card got printed and Avacyn restored, a lot of people were like, "This seems really dumb. Who would ever run this?" And it pretty much still is that way at a $2 mythic. But what it reads is you exile the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you do, repeat this process. All right, so Shiro flips his Elven deck onto the field. A lot of triggers go off. That's all fine and dandy. Well, you have no cards in your deck, Shiro. How are you going to win? You can't swing this turn. Oh, wait. Yes, I can. Jump over to the enchantment field, and we have Concordant Crossroads. Yeah, that's right. This card doesn't look like much. It really doesn't. And I mean, its value is about 20. Wow, that went up. Holy shit, I bought it for like $2. So it is now as of June 27th, 2019, roughly $24 to $120 card, depending.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because it is a one drop green enchantment that all of your creatures have, actually, all creatures, period. All creatures, including your opponents, have haste. Haste lets you attack right away. Man, all these elves on the field are like plus X equal to elves and then some. I think you're dead.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now I know why I like to play
Um,
Civ.
the highest number I swung for, I think back in college with this was like 176 on one creature,
I could see
but
that.
don't quote, it's been a while.
I want to guess it's Heedless One. Damage and toughness equal to the number of elves you control
Partially,
or in play.
including whenever an elf enters, put a 1/1 counter on thing.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, this deck can get. I could see this, just the synergy
Yes.
of this. It's very good.
Melk,
El-
I'll gladly bring it whenever we eventually meet up.
Elf decks are, yeah, no, absolutely. Well, elf decks are always fun. I mean, whether or not you're building a legacy, vintage, modern, or whatever elf deck, uh, and ironically, they're not cheap because one of the things I would add in, like if I was running a version of this, would probably be City of Solitude or Sylvan Library. Just
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more stuff I can add in
oh
there.
yeah, but I
That's
like
probably a
Sylvan.
3-year-old deck list.
But even at such, like the Concordant Crossroads it was a terrific find for the price. And again, this is what I say. Like again, and now I'll drive home a couple of points. This is the format that is largely responsible, and I will say that I really want to say that about 50% of the reason that cards go up in value is because of the commander format. Because certain cards all of a sudden in commander is still a casual format. It is a non-tournament, so meaning it's not a DCI tournament sanction or sanctioned tournament format. It is a casual format. But because of that, and because some of these cards become very sought after, because like you said, Concord and Crossroads in any other format, not the greatest card because you don't really want your opponents to have the opportunity to get stuff off at you right away either. But because of simply put the way your deck is playing out, it just makes it so that even if your opponents have like a bunch of 5/5 or 10/10 blockers, you're steamrolling them with creatures that are like stupid large.
Exactly. Now, for those who are also curious, we're using the site called Tapped Out. I like it because it'll show me my mana curve, it'll show me my breakdown per card type, and more than that, it also gives me a breakdown of how much is this deck built from casual considered cards and competitive considered cards. How tuned is this deck roughly? And I prefer to try and lean more towards the casual side because that's how I like to play. It's more fun for people, it allows for more interaction, which is a lot of the big things you want from the commander format. You want to have fun interactions. You want to see a massive amount of storms go off because of all the in responses. But on top of that, you can also see just underneath where it has those bars of casual and competitive, there's Card Kingdom, there's TCG Player. If you want to buy this entire deck as is right now, about 170 bucks. That's not that bad for a commander deck when you think about it. It's basically a $2 per card average.
Yeah. And I mean, for the most part, if you're going to get into Commander. Now, one thing I do want to say now, we are probably about a month out from the launch of the 2019 series of Commanders. because the new commander decks are going to be hitting the stores within 4 to 5 weeks.
Yep,
Um,
usually between July and August.
yep. Because in August, I forget what we're getting. I think we're getting something else in August too. 2020 comes out next week or pre-release next week, and the week after that. Then we get Commander. No, yeah, we get Commander, and then we will get after that will be the September release for the next standard set.
Quick Google says August 23rd is the official 2019 Commander 2019
Yeah,
release date.
that makes sense. That makes sense because second week of July they wouldn't do anything right until like mid July. So yeah, yeah, sounds good. Sounds about right. Good news.
So you remember that seed I planted earlier, Milk? That name drop I did?
Well, let me ask you a question. Do we want to finish off with that and check Azami right now?
Ooh, ooh. You tempt me, sir. You come to me on the day of this podcast and you ask me. Yes. Yeah, I had to do the kickback from earlier. I couldn't help it.
It's fair. So let's talk a little bit about this deck, and then we'll go into the next deck, and then we'll go through all the tools that people should have. So Azami, Lady of Scrolls. So this is a legendary human wizard. Tap an untapped wizard you control, draw a card. So right off the bat, I see that this is pretty much a mono blue deck, and
Oh, indeed it is.
that you're looking to do some fun things with drawing cards, perhaps.
Well, that is basically what a zombie was built for. Now, she isn't that threatening at a 0/2 for 5 mana. That's extremely underwhelming for a card, in fact, when you look at based upon a set. And she's only worth about 50 cents. I mean, she can't be that good. There's what's called kill on sight commanders, and it's exactly what you think it is. You see that commander, you kill it on sight. That commander is an extremely big threat. A zombie is an extremely, period, big, period, threat in all capitals, exclamation point. Why is that? Because normally, if you've played Magic, you understand that the tap symbol means I have to wait until this creature is not summoning sick in order to tap it. Azami avoids that rule because she has the physical word of tap. The second I drop a wizard, I can technically tap it to draw a card.
Ooh,
Yes. Let that sink in for a second there.
yeah.
So, what is the premise of this deck? I am teaching kill on sight threat assessment. How am I doing that? I built a deck made of 32 different wizards, including a zombie. So, that doesn't seem that big. I mean, yeah, I can tap them to draw cards, but I'm tapping, I'm drawing a card. Oh, I can probably play this card and then tap it to draw another card. And oh, okay, I'm tapped out of mana. So I guess that's my turn. That's not that bad. Well, there is a wizard in here that's really fun. A couple of them, actually. One of them is you have Baron, Master Wizard. He's only a 1/1 for 3, and this is from before we officially had like creature dash goblin or legendary creature dash human wizard. He specifically says summon legend as his type. That's how we knew stuff was legendary back then. And then says he counts as a wizard. There we go. There's my creature types. Legendary creature, wizard. Works for me. Why does he seem so bad? Pay 2 of any color and sacrifice a permanent. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Yeah, I can sack a wizard and just return whatever I want to your hand. Well, that doesn't sound that fun. This is a blue deck. Blue decks are fun for the person playing the blue deck. Well, what else do you have? I have another legendary wizard called Urtai, Wizard Adept. Tap 2 colorless, 2 blue, and him to counter target spell. Yeah, I can flat out counter anything for 4 and tapping him. Unless it says it can't be countered. Okay, so that means you probably don't need as many counter spells. That'd be correct, but let's run a few anyway. Then I move on to what is essentially the win condition of the deck, or what I like to call the everybody draws because I'm Oprah. Why? Because Melk gets cards, I get cards, Frank gets cards, and Tony gets cards. Everybody gets cards. Specifically, I tap a single blue in him, and each player discards his or her hand and then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. I do nothing but draw cards with tapping wizards. I don't tap him with a zombie and tap him himself after tapping everything else with a zombie. Probably have, I don't know, we'll say 10 cards in hand. Everybody draws 10 after discarding whatever they had. You've thrown away potentially what could be part of your key combo and drawn 10 new cards. That's fine. You've drawn 10% of your deck. Yeah, it can be fun that way.
It's true.
But I mean, I'm drawing so many cards. That pesky 7 rule came into play again. And if you notice, I have Spellbook and Reliquary Tower.
Yep, I did see that.
Correct. But I mean, if I don't have those, I still got to do the discard. You're right. That's why I have also put in Trinket Mage. Because one, he's a wizard, and two, when he enters the battlefield, I can search for a converted mana cost artifact, one or less, reveal it, and put it in my hand. Spellbook costs 0. It's a way to hunt. If I'm drawing a lot, I'm probably going
It's
to
very
draw
true.
him. Well, okay, but a lot of people can cast other stuff, right, Milk? I mean, that's how this game works. Do you agree?
Sure.
Now, you also play a lot of cards I call unfun, and combo cards that I call unfun. Would you agree?
Propaganda, what?
Allow me to introduce you to the most unfun card combo in Magic. What is that? Let's go to the creature tab and go all the way down, and we're looking for Teferi, Mage of Zalifer from Time Spiral block,
Teferi's
one of my
just never
favorite
fun in
legendary
any
creatures.
format, but yes, go on.
That's correct, because everything I can play has flash, which means it goes at instant speed. Everything anybody else can play is at sorcery speed. Can't happen on my turn, can only happen on your own turn. Yeah, that's not fun. But you know what's worse? When you can't cast a single thing anyway. Well, no, that's impossible. I've casted something at sorcery speed. It's going to cast. That's right. Let's go over to the artifact table for a second and go down to what says knowledge pool. You know what? Let me get the full size of this card because I need to read the text specifically for you. Knowledge pool says imprint mechanic. When knowledge pool enters the battlefield, each player exiles the top 3 cards of his or her library. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles it. If that player does, he or she may cast another non-land card exiled with knowledge pool without paying its mana cost. Well, that doesn't seem that bad. I mean, yeah, I have to exile 3 cards, but I can just play stuff later. Can you, though? Because, I mean, the way the stack works is that, well, you would play a card at sorcery speed because Teferi's on the field. Well, that gets exiled because you've casted a spell from your hand with Knowledge Pool. If you do, you may cast another non-land card exiled with Knowledge Pool without paying that card's mana cost. Oh, I can play something for free, but I have to cast something for free at sorcery speed because it's a Fury. And sorcery speed means there can't be anything on the stack. But the trigger for this is on the stack. So I can't cast? That's right. You can't cast. Meaning you've casted something, it's exiled, it's there, bye-bye. So whatever you casted is sitting out there in middle of nowhere knowledge pool, but I can cast at instant speed. I
Jesus.
can play whatever you want. That's what's called a hard lock, ladies and gentlemen, because you can't kill it. Sorry, there is one card that will kill this. And that is, it is a destroy target artifact at instant speed, which drops the sorcery speed, but it has split second. Split second is a mechanic that says after you've played this card, nothing else can go on the stack.
Yeah, split second is one of two mechanics that, uh, even in this format, are extraordinarily dangerous. The other one is Shadow or Shroud.
Shroud.
Shroud and Split Second, I still think are probably two of the most broken mechanics introduced. Shroud is like
Yes.
hexproof on steroids.
Shroud. So hexproof says opponents can't target this thing. Okay. They can't target it. Well, targeting is the biggest thing in the game. Shroud went one step further, and Shroud came before hexproof. Shroud said, Nobody can target this thing. But this is my thing. I want to target it. I want to make my creature with Shroud bigger. You can't. Shroud was mean to everybody, but it was usually on something that deserved to have Shroud. So for anybody out there, for a moderately decent price, if you want to ever play Commander and be the most unfun guy at the table like me, Teferi and Knowledge Pool, put those in any blue deck because it just stops people from playing.
That's true. It's so good.
Which is
Uh,
also why I make sure any red deck I run has something with split second in it. I can't remember what the name of the card is though.
I think I, kn- I have to. I have multiple copies of it. Now let's go to your favorite deck.
Yeah,
Your crown jewel of your. Let's just name it the suspending time with Jorah.
yeah, I'm suspending time. That's a weird name for a title. I mean, you're suspending time. That's not quite stopping time, you're just temporarily disabling it. Why is it called this? Because that is her mechanic. This is one, I'm going to say it's simple. It's 1.0 Giora. If you don't understand that, it's because they reprinted her in the newer Dominaria set, and she's not as good as she used to be, but she looks just as good as she used to be because she's immortal. Suspend was a very interesting mechanic of its time. Specifically, it was, let's say something had suspend 4. So you pay whatever the cost is and suspend it, meaning you exile it. But it gets 4 counters on it, 4 time counters. Every upkeep, you take a time counter off. And then when you lose the last time counter, you got to play it for free. This was also back when play meant it just dropped into the field magically and everything happened. Now, that's considered casting for free. Why am I telling you this? Because that matters. You have a big creature coming on board like this deck wants to do 4 turns later, it's casting for free. Casting things can be countered. Most players do not realize this. Take advantage of the ignorance. Let me repeat that. Most players do not know suspended cards are casted and therefore can be countered. Take advantage of this. So that's all fine and dandy. Go ahead, Milk.
No, no, continue.
So yeah, cards are coming in for free. That's great. Who doesn't love free cards? Well, we want to make value of these free cards, so we went with every big creature I could. That wasn't like the most absolute jerky version of what it could be, like say Blightsteel Colossus, but it's there.
Listen, Darksteel Colossus and Blightsteel Colossus, they're cousins, all right?
They are. But I unfortunately try to be merciful now and then to people.
Yeah, I
But this
notice
is
you don't
also
have
coming
the
from the
worm.
guy. Correct. I don't have the worm. I don't have Blightsteel. But there is Kiki Jiki, so I'm not a complete soft heart here.
Cheeky
And if
Cheeky is amazing.
right, and if you happen to look, there is one artifact missing from this deck, and that is Knowledge Pool.
But you have
I have
Larry Nevin's
Teferi.
disc.
Yes, I have Teferi, but I don't have Knowledge Pool. Simply
True.
because I couldn't find a card to cut at the time.
That's
I'm
fair.
still this is the deck that I comb through on like a weekly basis and say, how can I make this more fun for myself? Now, there's a few cards in here that aren't exactly ones I want to suspend. I'm going to use Obstinate Familiar as an example there because this is a very undervalued card. And I say that extremely so because not a lot of people would look at a 1-drop lizard that's a 1/1 and simply says, if you would draw a card, you may skip that draw instead. Well, that's not that big. You're right. That isn't that big. Well, in this deck, it kind of is big because I'm suspending pretty much every big creature I have and playing a lot of other things to try and defend myself until that happens, or defend Giora, or to just take extra turns because there's a lot of big take extra turns over in that sorcery column. Those are all costly cards and they're going to take time to come out. But if I'm taking extra turns, I'm drawing extra cards. And then there's both Niv Mizzets, which is when I draw cards, other things can happen. Okay. Well, what happens if I can't draw cards anymore? I'm going to lose. With Obstinate Familiar, not necessarily. It's a good backup plan to have. It's also because this deck happens to have Omniscience in it, which is you may play non-land cards from your hand without paying their mana costs. Big cost, but another good way to drop things. Yeah,
Sandos,
but
you're
I
also
mean,
playing propaganda here.
correct. That is what I'm going to call a staple of Commander that people also undervalue. If you're playing blue, odds are you're also going to want propaganda because you remember a little while back in Geo or in Sigarda when I said, "Yeah, there's that Windborn Muse card. That means like you can't attack me unless you pay 2 mana per creature." That's on an enchantment in blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about that for a second. Any deck that makes a ton of tokens, like, oh, I don't know, Omnath? Yeah. Do you have like 9 million mana? Oh, you do. And you're swinging with, 4.5 million creatures? Damn, you can pay that cost. That's too bad. Really is too bad, except now Omnath is a 1-1 again. So at least I'm saved from him.
Well, I mean,
It shuts down a lot of big, heavy
to
mass board hitters.
to be fair, there's only one thing I could think of that maybe, like when you say in your maybe board. One thing that I would also consider for the maybe board, in addition to propaganda, this is why you're gonna say this is why I hate your concept for a deck, Mel. Is what is it, Casmina, that now does that too because she has the
Yep.
same thing. It's like, oh, Casmina and Narset. So now we've completed this. The circle is complete.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, you
So
can't draw anything extra. Oh, and you can't search your library. And anytime you want to attack me, it's going to cost you 4.
yeah, she's pretty mean. Again, I haven't looked at a lot of like the newer sets and looked at the commander value yet, but that's also because I've been kind of sucked up in playing other things, including Arena, where they don't have this format yet. Unfortunately, really wish they did.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean, like,
Mm.
as obviously this is a deck that I can see you've put time in, and this is your, it's a let's say I think every player has a crown jewel deck, or maybe one or two decks that they maintain over the years, and they tweak and they make better, and they see where they can improve it, and it's always kind of their, as I call it, like my baby deck. Like for me, that's my artifact deck. But
Yeah,
for me, I'm just an unfun bastard. but and when I finish building my commander deck, it will be equally unfun because now, even now going through this, I now have more ideas of what to do, like that Teferi combo. Yeah,
yeah, that's mean,
it's
right?
just going,
Like
it's going
when I
in there.
found, I I remember specifically when this happened because it was when Mirrodin besieged like the corruption of Mirrodin block released. I forget what it was called. The specific set was Mirrodin besieged, but it was the new Phyrexia block where it was
Right,
Scars of Mirrodin besieged, and then
new
we as
Phyrexia.
players got to pick between new Phyrexia or the other one. And we all loved poison because it was overpowered, so we picked new Phyrexia. Because I saw that and I was on MTG Salvation checking out spoilers. And I headed to the forums and people were saying, "Hey, I think this is how this works, but I'm not sure. Can we talk more?" And no one could really confirm it. And it wasn't me that confirmed it. I said, "I'm pretty sure it works this way." But again, this is based a lot on theory. And we actually had a bunch of pro players being like, "No, you guys are correct. Like this is judge level thinking," which is what has made me decide to try going for my judge licensing as MTG before they've changed up that whole rule set. And unfortunately, I keep failing by one question every time because fucking flanking and shadow are stupid.
Oh yeah, Shadow. Shadow is the other one that I was gonna say is still stupidly powerful in this format, because again,
For those
Shadow
unaware,
Shadow rarely, unless most people actually don't build decks with shadow creatures on. So if you do build a deck with a shadow creature, it's virtually unstoppable. And then if you put Spectre Shroud on it, I believe it's Spectre Shroud, which gives it Shroud. One of them
hmm
gives it Shroud. It's
I
just like,
believe so.
oh, see, like here's the other thing.
Whisper Silk Cloak is one that gave Shroud.
Yeah, that's the one. But like, here's the thing that always gets me with these decks is like there are cards that now exist that now are multi-format killer cards. One of them I will always say is Run the Last Troll.
Oh, for sure. Thrun
Thrun.
is so much fun in Commander.
Oh yeah, he's ridiculous in Commander, and like you can use him in Troll Ascetic, and then you have two big trolls out there that are just basically like, well, you can't target us. We're gonna fuck you up. I'm gonna have to bleep that, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. So if you actually go down to where you can put like the description of the deck, what you want to do, you'll notice where it says edit, accidental infinite turn combo. Now we're going to go through the cards. Isochron Scepter. We go to the artifact column, you have Isochron Scepter. You get to imprint something onto Isochron Scepter, specifically an instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand. Then you tap 2 of any color and tap it, and you can make a copy of the exile card and cast it for free without its cost. That's pretty nice. Now we go to Disperse, which has to be an instant because it says accidental turn combo, and that's how it works. You'll notice it's not there anymore
Right,
because I've put in Cyclonic Rift to try and make the deck a little more, you know, enjoyable for other people. But
right,
Disperse was pay 2 blue and return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand.
right,
Okay, so I'm clearly going to be returning something to my hand. That something is it Chronarch? Is it Chronarch is a 5-drop 2/2 wizard that when he enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand, and then plus extra turn card in your graveyard. Well, there's a lot of those. Like we'll use Time Warp as the basic example here. So target player takes an extra turn after this one. So I've played that. It's in my graveyard. I drop down Is it Chronarch. I'm gonna return that to my hand. So okay, I'm taking an extra turn. Well, that's in my hand now. Is it? He's on the field. These are on the field. My turn comes around. I'm in my extra turn now. Oh well, I'm gonna cast it and take an extra turn. It's in my graveyard. I'm gonna bounce Chronarch. I'm gonna play Chronarch, and I'm gonna get it back. I'm in my second extra turn. Rinse and repeat. So
uh,
I literally made it where I take an infinite amount of extra turns, and they are in the literal form of infinite because Obstinate Familiar can be on the field, and I can't die by drawing. And while that's there, I'm probably smashing you in the face with Darksteel Colossus or Ulamog, or one of the many other things I
oh
have in
yeah.
this deck.
Wow,
The
that's a
entire
fantastic deck.
yes, the entire point of this deck was I want to play big things for free.
It's
And
fair.
I loved the suspend mechanic when it was a thing. I added a lot of ways also to kind of speed that up. For example, we have time crafting. I can remove or add X amount of time counters from something. We have Fury Charm, which again, I can remove 2 time counters from target permanent or suspended card. And then we have one of my favorite ones, which is Giora's Time Bug. Choose target permanent or suspended card you own. If it has a time counter on it, you can remove it or you can add another one to it. I can essentially pump things out turns sooner than I want. And I can also add things that I want where I want to if you're also playing suspend. So I can mess up somebody else or I can do my own. And then just for good measure, magically in case there's something I really don't want to deal with, like I don't know, say your commander because it's really, really annoying and the way commander costs additional costs work. I threw in a Vesuvian shapeshifter.
Oh yeah.
It's essentially a clone, but better and costs more because I
S-
can continually do it.
Right. Yeah. No, I like that. Reminds me of Vesuvan Doppelganger, old
Mhm.
version. Nice. I really like this deck, by the way.
And just in case you weren't sure what Kiki Jiki does, who got mentioned a little bit earlier, Kiki Jiki is a simple goblin with haste, and you can tap him to create a copy of any target non legendary creature you control, which gains haste and gets sacked at the end of the end step. Hi, Darksteel Colossus, who's not legendary and is an 11/11 indestructible trample. There's 2 of you now. Let's hit for 22.
That's mean, but I like it.
What can I say? I had fun ideas with this deck.
No, I can see. It's good.
And
Well,
since we're on the topic of staples, real quick, if you look in the land column, Maze of Ith. It's a pricey card, but it does the job.
I mean, that definitely gets the work. That does the work for sure. Had all versions of Maze of Ith. I mean, as far as it goes for staples, I also think that if you're going to be running anything in black, you should consider adding in a Bajuka Bog and potentially a Besiju who shelters all. Besiju just makes it so that your instants and sorcerers can't be countered.
for sure. So let's say you want to get into Commander. All right, well, you now know about tapped out on that. That's really handy. At least I think so. There's also another one called Mana Stack. Does the same thing, a little bit different. I found going there a lot more often than not for a lot of my friends now. But I mean, it's Commander. You said one deck's $170. I don't got that kind of scratch. I just have a like part-time job at McDonald's.
All right, so right now we're on the Commander's Quarters Command Your Budget website. And just to catch up where we left off, uh, this is a website that this YouTube channel does what specifically, Shiro?
So they tend to make videos involving Commander in all of its shapes and forms, from things like lists of underrated cards and how they are actually really good for the format, to hey, here's this Commander. We built a like $25 cheap budget deck. Feel free to take a look and, maybe build it yourself. It's a good way to either just get your juices flowing for creativity, or if you're just getting into it, to be like, well, I'm really interested in this legendary creature and I want to build a deck for it, but I don't know where to start. And what's better than just shelling out only $25? I mean, let's say you work full time. That's two lunches instead of going out.
Yeah, it's
Can't really
true.
complain about that.
Now we went over Mana Stack. What's Deck Box?
So Deckbox is a site that lets you catalog your entire collection, and it'll give you current prices. It'll tell you, hey, it's used here, it's used there. I find it extremely handy for keeping up with what I have. Granted, I still have 90% of my collection to go through, but so far it's been a pretty big godsend. And it'll also show you, you can list whether it's foil, what sets it's from, and you can filter whether you want it like it's in your collection or you have it up for trade or you want to sell it, anything like that. It lets you very thoroughly both catalog and mark your collection for what you want to do with every single card.
Okay. Now moving on, you send me a link to an app called MTG Familiar. Talk to me a little bit about this and what you use this for.
MTG Familiar is an app that does pretty much the same thing as Deckbox, except Deckbox is mostly just that web. It's also helpful because it works kind of like a gatherer in a way, or a life counter. It's a versatile app that does a lot of things and makes you familiar with a lot of aspects of MTG on your phone. So personally, I tend to use it for dice rolls, life counters, things like that. And I actually came across this when playing Omnath because I'm like, I can't, like, I'm out of dice. I can't keep track of this. And someone went, just use this for your mana pool. And I'm like, what's this? And I download it and I'm like, this is perfect. I was shocked at how well it worked. You can even just do a flip a coin with it if you have that effect and you don't happen to actually have a coin.
Nice. And the last one, I think this one is one link that you sent me was face to face games.
So this is for myself in Canada and other Canadians out there. They also have, I believe, in
They have an EU version too.
EU.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have an EU version as far as I'm aware. And these guys are essentially like Channel Fireball, Star City Games, TCG Player. They are a shop that has a site like this to sell on, and they're a much bigger provider than like your typical LGS or local game store, however you want to say it. And they have a lot of good weekly deals, and they will actually specifically advertise times where it's like, hey, up to 50% on Commanders staples or Commander singles that are like really good cards to have. Not to mention that I'm not paying exchange rate because I'm buying from within my own country.
Ah,
For
that
those
works.
unaware, like Milk, what's a box of regular box of magic cost for you? Oh, $100,
Yeah, around
maybe 80.
100. Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's about one, anywhere between 130 after exchange rate, shipping, handling, all that stuff, all the markup, and like 170. And that's for like your regular set. That's not even like say Modern Horizons. Those are probably closer to like 250.
Okay, and now I'll just go over two things. Now, of course, uh, here in the states, and just in general, I think it might be localized. It may not be. It does go on TCG players. Scryfall. Scryfall is pretty much the go to if you're looking for any sort of Magic card and to get an idea of the prices and some deck ideas for it. You can click on all sets and you can say, hey, I want to know what core set 2020 promos are going to be available. And it will pull that up. And if you click on the card, if there's a price associated with it, it will give you the associated price as well, and give you all the printings of that card. So, for instance, a card like this figure, I can see that this is going to be in the core 2020 programs, which might be an FNM promo. It will tell you promo pack. Oh, this is from a promo pack. Great. And then you can go in here and pick out kind of which printing of this you have, and you can view all prints, and it will give you different prices for each of the different unique prints. Um, and then the other resource I use now, a lot of people are will go choose between either TCG Play or Channel Fireball, Card Kingdom, or Star City Games. Star City Games I find to be a valuable resource, not for the prices on cards, because I do not urge you to go to Star City Games for any reason, because for as far as it goes for pricing things to trade or pricing things to buy, they will give you the top value on almost anything. However, Star City Games does run a number of tournaments, and they do publish the results of those tournaments and these deck lists. And if you are a newer player to Magic and want to, let's say, hey, I'm thinking about getting into Modern, what decks are good in Modern? Well, this will give you a good idea of what people are running in Modern, what the popular decks are, and you can get a good look at, hey, I'm looking at a Humans deck. I'm seeing what cards are available, what people are running in that, and it'll give you a good idea of like what is kind of the meta. And then you can decide whether or not you want to build into that meta, or maybe you want to build a variant of that, or maybe you just don't want to build anything in the meta at all, but want to see what's out there and maybe try to figure out a way to kind of go against the meta. And a lot of people will do that. Um, so that's one of the big things. That is why I use Star City Games. And of course, I will say this, as you can tell by the lower right hand of the screen, this video is being sponsored by Tier 1 Games, a local game store that I go to in northern New Jersey. If you are in the greater Bergen County area and are looking for a place to play games, I highly recommend checking out Tier 1 Games on Facebook to see what events are running. Every Friday night, they run Friday Night Magic, and Sean and Steve are two of the best store owners I've ever had the pleasure to work with, and I can't recommend them enough. Once again, my name is Melkanor, and this has been an in-depth look into Commander with our good buddy Shiro. And once again, Shiro, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. I know you're looking forward to the Final Fantasy XIV new expansion, so I know today is kind of a down day as we're waiting for that to load. And I just wanted to thank you for your time. And if there's anything you'd like to say in closing.
Thank you for having me. And again, the timing's kind of perfect that there's 24-hour maintenance, I guess, right?
Yeah, actually, it is 100% perfect. So that'll be doing it for this episode of the Mel Show podcast, where we do an in-depth dive into Magic. We will be doing a few more of these as the sets come out. I'm sure after M2020 core comes out, probably about a week after release, Shiro and I will do another kind of maybe a post-mortem on that launch. And we will be back. I believe we're going to be back. The next podcast we will be filming will be again with Shiro, Grand Mastodon, and Danny DPS. If we can get everybody nailed down to do our kind of post-launch review of Shadowbringers for Final Fantasy XIV. Well, that's going to do it for me. Once again, everybody, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to check out this video. If you like anything you saw here, of course, hit the like button and all the other typical BS that goes along with that. At any rate, from me to you, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you around.